He said you'd come. Now let's hope you're not too late.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Long talks. Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it. Long talks. Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it. Long talks. Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Welcome to Jumanji.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 56 of the Wulong Talks podcast. It's great to have you back with us again. Hi, my name is Jason. I'm the host of the show, as you know. And as always, I'm joined by the Rustling Kid, aka Rich Kid. Rich Kid, say what's up, man?
Yeah, what's happening, man?
And we have a very special guest joining us today as well. We're delighted to have him on the show. And our special guest is Dan from Dan's Distillery.
Hey,
Dan, say what's up, man?
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with us. We love having guests on the show. And, ever since I kind of started following you on Twitter, which I think was about a year ago, maybe, or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I've always kind of seen your tweets and stuff. And then I saw your a few of the videos that you did on your YouTube channel and things like that. And I was like, wow, this guy seems kind of cool, man. We got to get him on the show. And then for some reason, 12 months passed and I never actually got around to it.
Yeah. I know how it is.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mad one. But anyway, as I said, man, it's great to have you on as well, man. So thanks very much. Yeah, you're very welcome. But yeah, as I said, we'll get started as we usually do with what everybody's been up to. So, Rich, what you been doing since we last recorded, man? Anything fun? Anything geeky? How far you got with Spider-Man?
Okay, we'll get to Spider-Man in a second.
That's a sensitive subject, isn't it?
Yeah. I just want to put it out there, Dan. Yeah. Like I said, like we've been following you on Twitter for like a year. Yeah. But I've been on Jason's case every single day for about just to let you know that, hey Jay, let's get Dan on. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw that cheeky little lie in there.
I was gonna say somebody's getting a jump on.
What have I been up to? Okay, I'm gonna be honestly truthful. And yeah, Spider-Man had to get sacked for a little bit. Like I've got to like a particular boss where I'm fighting against like the Vulture and Electro at the same time.
Oh yeah, I know that
and
one.
yeah, you know what? Yeah, and it's just hard. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard, like like on the box where it says be greater, and like I got to that boss level and I said, no, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to be greater. This is like I don't want to be a superhero anymore. This is too much work. And so I've literally just gone back to playing Destiny 2 the majority of the time with my brother and just banging that out. Just like a nice little. I like Destiny 2. Like you can jump on it and you can like nice little 45-minute like raid or shoot 'em up and just you can kind of like just time yourself. So that's what I've been doing computer game wise. Film wise, for the first time yesterday, just by chance, I watched Halloween 2, as in like the original Halloween, produced by John Carpenter but not directed by. And for the longest time I always thought I'd seen it because I've known how the film actually plays out and I've seen so many scenes from it. And then I was watching, like, obviously with the new remake coming out in a few days, I was watching like a little YouTube thing that popped up about the history of Michael Myers, and I just realized it was actually the only one that I haven't seen. And I watched it last night, and I can understand why people really don't like it. I generally wasn't impressed. It made shitloads of money in the cinema when it came out, which is fair enough. It's coming off like a really successful first film. But it's just one of those things that I wish I'd never seen it, because what I thought I had seen and what I remembered was so much better than what I saw on the screen. Like it was actually quite upsetting. And and that's about it. And obviously just the whole buying of the comic books. I did like a little bit of a comic book run yesterday. Picked up like, Doctor Strange, Shatterstar, some Mr. and Mrs. X. And yeah, that's it. That's about as geeky as I've been this week since we recorded.
Cool. And Dan, how about you, man? What you been up to?
Me, apart from the usual boring stuff, just gaming really. Obviously been playing Spider-Man. I tried to milk that as much as I could, but I finished it now. But yeah, I'm enjoying that game, man. I need the DLC.
Listen, mate, don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
That game is too good, man. It's too good. But yeah, that, and I got Dragon Ball Fighter Z for the Switch recently as well, so I've been banging that out. Yeah, just gaming really. I watched a few movies recently. I saw Venom. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I refused.
You refused to see it. All right.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
It was one of those things where I thought, all right, the reviews came out, they were bad, and then I saw some people saying it was actually good. So I thought, you know what, I need to make up my mind for myself. I need to watch it. I didn't want it to happen, like the movie itself, but I watched it. I wish I didn't, but I watched it. Yeah, it's one of those movies, isn't it? It's watchable, but it ain't great. Yeah, that was my verdict.
Yeah. No, I've seen it as well, and I did a review for the channel, and I was just. I wasn't scathing, but I was just like, I don't get this film. I really don't get it. I mean, I went to watch it with a friend of ours, and she really enjoyed it. She was like, "Oh, it's so stupid. I can kind of laugh at it." So she got fun out of it in that regard. But for me, I find it hard to enjoy some of these comic book movies when. The bar is we're in a world where the bar is so high now in terms of what you can do with a comic book movie and the kind of movies that we've gotten, that it feels like to kind of try and slide these films in through the back door is just not acceptable, man. Not at all. Like, you can do better than that. Like, we're in a world where, we've got Avengers Infinity War and Black Panther, and, we've got like quality films. Like, we don't need this cack anymore. Like, just stinking the place out. But
yeah, for real.
Yeah, that was really my take on Venom. But I mean, aside from that, it's funny you brought up Venom, because the only thing really that I've been doing is because this is to show you how nerdy I am. I've been actually watching like a lot of YouTube videos about the background behind Sony and their decision making with regards to Spider-Man, because there's been some talk that with Venom being a potential box office success, although we still have to wait and see how it holds up this weekend. There's been talk going around that Spider-Man may be returning to Sony, possibly, in a sense that people have floated this idea that Sony may decide that they don't need their partnership with the MCU anymore if Venom continues to make money on its own. So I've been watching a few kind of videos about the background behind that, and boy, oh boy, I really hope that doesn't come to pass. Sony don't seem to know what they're doing, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that apparently, because they're making the Craven movie, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
But I've heard that it's meant to be linked to the MCU. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yes, that was the one that's going around as well. Yeah.
So it would be an MCU movie instead of a Sony movie, which I wouldn't mind, I guess. If they could bring him into the MCU, and because I would like to see him like against like Spider-Man, Black Panther.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry. What? They're making the film about Craven.
Yeah,
apparently. Yeah,
Craven the Hunter.
Yeah.
No, that's not Marvel. That's Sony. That's Sony. Jesus Christ. Sorry, carry on.
If they could bring him to the MCU, that's the only time I'd really want to see that. But like, they're doing that, and like a Morbius movie as well, and it's like they're just trying to milk the Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah, well, that's their cash cow at the moment. It's their golden egg, so they're trying to fleece it for all it's worth, really. Some of them videos that I've seen have said that kind of explain the political situation at Sony, and like it all seems like it's internal power struggles, and one person wanting one thing, one person wanting another, and remarkably similar to the situation with Warner Brothers and DC, basically behind the scenes, in that there's just too many different factions who all want to kind of do their own thing, and no kind of singular focus and no leadership, and it's all just sounding a mess. But anyway, I'm sure listeners, you know all of that already, so we won't go on about that no more. But yeah, Dan, as said, it's a pleasure to have you with us, man. We've seen you from afar, and you know, we've always kind of want to connect with people, especially people here in the UK who are, you know, who are really into geek culture and into the different aspects of it. How did you kind of get into sort of vlogging and things like that? I mean, was that something that you kind of always knew you wanted to do, or? No?
So, well, all right. So, oh man, it's going back like a while, like when I was back in college, because I've always been a big gamer, and I remember I used to go out and I used to buy like computer magazines and all that, and I thought to myself one day I would love to write for one of these magazines. So I just started up a blog, and I just started writing about games, like Nintendo games and stuff like that. And I thought like I'd start my own like Facebook page, like Twitter page, things like that, and it got quite a big following. So I was doing that for quite a few years, like just writing about games. And then I thought, obviously, like sitting around with friends, we're talking about movies, we're talking about TV series as well. And I thought, well, let me just expand it a little bit. And that's kind of how Dan's Distillery came about. It was just like, just trying to encompass like all the sort of geeky things out there, gaming, comic books, cartoons, all that, just putting it into one sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, like I only really started maybe on the movies at end of 2017 or something like that. So it's like quite recently I started doing like reviews and things like that. But yeah, no, I've just always sort of loved that sort of geek culture, you know.
Okay.
So
yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like it's funny because I mean, when from our side, you know, me and Rich have long been kind of fans of comic books and movies and gaming as well. And we've never really kind of known like how to express that really. And it was something that we kind of, the two of us always knew we wanted to do, but we didn't really know like how to do it at the time, you know? And as Rich will tell you, you know, we're no spring chickens. So like for us, when we started, you know, kind of really getting into talking to each other about comic books and things like that, there was really not the access to technology that we have now and to social media now. So it was, it was a bit of a weird situation for us really. But Rich, I mean, you always tell the story best. So you might as well tell Dan and the listeners about how we kind of came up with this thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is like this is how me and Jason actually became friends. I was literally just the, you know, the quiet geek, just kept myself to myself, and Jason was like, you know, like he was like the road man. Yeah, the baggy trousers on, you know, the Helly Hansen jacket on, you know, and the braids.
Lies, listeners, lies. You know, I'm a good.
So I'm gonna be using certain words, and if you don't know what those words are, she's too young for you, bro. So the first word is Helly Hansen, so that should show you how old we really are. And literally we were in the same maths class, and I just ended up, I think I came into maths class one day and I was reading like an issue of X-Men, and it was around the period when Joe Madureira was like the hottest artist in the hottest artist in general. And, you know, Jason was like, oh, you read comic books? And I was like, yeah, like, you know, I love the X-Men. And he was like, yeah, you know, I watch it on, you know, on the TV, and I read comic books from time to time as well. And that's basically how we struck up a friendship. And I mean, that's like 1995. Yeah, 1995. And then years later, obviously, like, you know, we're still doing the whole geeky thing. We love going to see films and go to comic books and conventions and things like that. And then one day I ended up going to like my local comic book store, which is not Orbital. What's it called? It's called Gosh, which is just off Berwick Street in central London. And they had some promotion for the Original Sin storyline, which ran through Marvel a couple of years ago, and basically it came off the the premise that somebody had killed the Watcher of the Marvel Universe. And I literally just walked in there, saw the poster, and it said, yeah, who killed the Watcher? And I looked at the guy behind the counter, and I was like, oh yeah, it must be Nick Fury. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's Nick Fury. Like he's like the man who knows everything. That's number one. The Watcher knows everything, and Nick Fury knows everything. So there must be a secret that must be held. So number one, it has to come down to those two. Number three, Nick Fury in the cinematic Marvel universe is Samuel Jackson. And at this point, there hadn't really started to be any form of like links to the way how the comic books and the MCU are. They were quite different things. Like now, if you read the comic books and you watch the films, you can see that they're quite similar, especially when it starts coming towards say like a summer event. So for example, we just had Infinity War, and in the comic books now Infinity War is now happening. But I could see this coming a mile off, and he just looked at me and just like, wow, that's like you just got that from the poster. And I was like, yeah, like it just makes sense. I end up going to LA on holiday for 2 weeks, and I come back, and literally as I step into the comic book store, like he doesn't even let me come in. Like he runs up to me and he's like, listen, I'm really, really sorry. I got to tell you now, but your idea, I said it just as like a little conversation starter, and they posted it, and I was like, start from the beginning. And I won't say the name of the website that he sent it to, but it's a very, very known website, and easily one of the first websites, if not the first website that was set up that deals with geek culture, whether it be films, comic books, animation, and so forth. And what had happened is that he'd sent my theory to this website, because everybody was talking about this whole thing about who could kill the Watcher, and the person who was in charge of the article basically just posted my theory, and the guy who I told actually said that, listen, you're kind of taking a mick, you're being a bit of a dick by posting a theory and trying to pass it off as your own. And he just replied with an email saying, shh, don't tell anybody. And when he told me, like, he was really apologetic, and I was just like, yeah, don't worry about it, it is what it is. Like, if I could have gone out there and said it myself and XYZ. And then we started going to like Comic-Cons more and more. I mean, we were going to Comic-Cons before that anyway. And I just started seeing people at Comic-Cons, and in no way am I trying to be a bit of a dickhead, but I was like seeing people like who were just coming into the game and were getting and were basically getting information wrong, or going to certain people or listening to certain people and not really understanding the origin of this person. Like I'm a bit of a comic book snob. So for example, one of the worst things that anybody can ever say to me, which luckily nobody has said recently, is, oh, when I was young, I used to get Flash and Flash Gordon mixed up. No, fuck you. They're two different characters, two different powers. Yeah, like completely different, right? And so I was like, Jay, I reckon we should maybe try and start a platform, to try and get our voice out there. Like, number one, we were the only black people that were going to Comic-Cons around that time anyway, if not a very, 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 very small minority. Yeah. And Jay turned around and was like, I've been thinking about the same thing anyway. And it literally just kind of took off from there. And we just wanted to be able to like just express ourselves and try and be a voice. Like, we wanted to be a voice for people that wouldn't normally be associated with this. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, like, 10, 15 years ago, if you were black and you read comics, you were like, "Raw, okay, you're kind of different." Yeah. Now it's an everyday thing. So was that, but we also just basically wanted to have a platform where anybody could come in, whether you're black, white, male, female, transgender, transvestite, it doesn't matter. If this is what you like, you can come and listen to us, and we can just, wax lyrical and just crack some jokes. And that's basically how we started. So yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, man. So there you go, listeners. If you didn't know how we started, now you know. But let's crack on with some of these topics. There's been a few news items that we're going to go over now, listeners. So we'll just chat about a few of these things. As always, you can get involved in the conversation as well. We'll let you know how you can do that at the end of the show. But first and foremost, gentlemen, we are, God, how many hours is it now? 6 hours away, I think, or about 7 hours away, I would say, from the launch of Daredevil season 3. Now, this is, long been awaited and anticipated by people who are big fans of the Netflix series Daredevil. I didn't check how many years it's been since Daredevil season 2, but I think it's 2 years that have passed. I may be wrong on that, so please do correct me if I am. But yeah, you know, people have been waiting for this one. I mean, the last we saw of Daredevil was in the end of the Defenders. Did you see the Defenders, Dan?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So yeah, you know, the last we saw of him was bandaged up in what looked like some type of religious institution, possibly a nunnery.
Yeah.
And you know, there was heavy kind of allusion to a very classic comic book series called Born Again by Frank Miller, which details Daredevil kind of being reborn, I suppose, as the title says. We don't know a lot about the series that is coming up so far, but I'm super excited because Daredevil is one of my favorite characters. So I guess the obvious question to the both of you is, how are you feeling about Daredevil season 3 coming forward? And Dan, you can go first, man.
All right. Yeah, well, I love Daredevil. I think it's probably my favorite of the Netflix series. Yeah, definitely my favorite of the series, of those bunch of series. I'm glad to see the Kingpin's coming back. He was like my favorite thing of like season 1, and then the fact that I think they've got Bullseye coming in it as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's just going to be a really good series. I wasn't a big fan of the Defenders. I thought they could have done a bit better. But I think like stripped back, when it's just like the heroes kind of on their own, it plays a lot better. And I think Daredevil's like a strong character that yeah, I think it'll be a good series. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it as well. I mean, when we the Defenders came out, we did do a review of it on the channel, and you know, we were mostly positive about it. There was a few kind of negatives, and I think having watched it a couple of times now, I probably would revise my opinion and say it's you know, for me personally, it's still enjoyable on a level, because I just was like, oh my God, it's all these characters together at the same time on TV. So I was just kind of like, you know, still in that frame. But if I step away from that and look at it as a whole, it's really not, you know, as great as I hoped it would be. And certainly I think, you know, for me, the biggest problem I had with it was the hand, which is also the biggest problem I had with Daredevil season 2, because you know, when it was Daredevil and Punisher, I thought it was phenomenal. But as soon as the hand got involved, I was just kind of like, oh,
I thought the same.
Yeah,
thought the same.
Know, it just, the way they were handled just didn't feel right to me. And then we had the disastrous Iron Fist as well. Well, more on that later. But you know, it really kind of took me out of it. So now we're going back to Daredevil versus the Kingpin. I think that's really going to be something spectacular to see, and the introduction of Bullseye as well, as you said, is something that fans have been saying from the first season. Really, they've wanted to see. It looks like we are finally getting him. Rich, before you give your thoughts on what you're looking forward to, could you just give people a quick breakdown of who Bullseye is from the comic books, just so they understand who we're talking about?
Okay, yeah. So basically, I mean, in a nutshell, Bullseye is an assassin for hire, who, in better way of description, is somebody who enjoys his job a bit too much. So you know how some people like to, you know, once it comes by 5:30, they like to clock off. He is not that way.
He's about that life.
He's about that life 24/7. And basically what it is that he's an assassin that's basically hired by Kingpin to take out Daredevil. And as much as Kingpin is, I would probably say, one of the greatest villains, if not the best villain for Daredevil, I think literally joint place would definitely have to be Bullseye as well. Bullseye's power is, number one, he doesn't have any form of powers, so he's not superhuman, and he's not a mutant. But through like years and years of basically practice, he has perfect aim, so he never misses. Well, he never misses until he meets Daredevil. And basically that's it. I mean, that's what it is. Kingpin basically hires somebody to take out Daredevil after he's just sick and tired of, like, you know, just Daredevil just spoiling his plans like one too many time, and that's after like he's hired people like Elektra to try and take out Daredevil and things like that. But I actually don't want to give too much away because I think they're really going to touch, from what I've seen in the trailers of the Daredevil season 3, they're going to be dealing with like Bullseye, how he was introduced in the comic book as well. So I mean, what I've just said is basically what you've seen in the trailer. But when you watch it, I mean, going by off the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, I don't think we're going to be disappointed. But all I'm going to say is, if they're bringing in Daredevil, whatever you thought, like choreography wise or fighting wise, was good or amazing in the first 2 seasons, it's going to be a lot better and it's going to be a lot bloodier. And that's I can put money on that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think for me, as somebody who was a big time fan of Daredevil, from about sort of the age of, I think, about 16 probably was when I first came across Daredevil. Bullseye was always his main antagonist. In the comics, he's the one who is responsible for murdering Elektra. And one of the things I always loved about Bullseye was the fact that, as you said, Richard, he never misses a target. And also the fact that virtually anything in his hands was a deadly weapon because he was so skilled. So he would literally could kill people with playing cards, which was one of the things he does, and is one of his kind of motifs. And I always remember, in the Frank Miller run, Bullseye just literally taking out rooms of guys with a deck of cards in his hand. And yeah, just thinking like, this is fucking insane, man. Like, this guy is incredible. So if we get even, half of that in this season, then I'm going to be a very, very happy boy, man. Dan, are you a binger? Do you like binge watch a whole season?
I do kind of binge, yeah. Like if it's a good one, then I can probably get through it in like a couple of days. Like I'll start on the Friday, finish it on the Saturday or something like that.
Because Richie, I know you've said before on the podcast that you're kind of done with binging now. Yeah. Do you still feel the same way about this one?
Oh yeah, I definitely still feel the same way. I mean, we're back to 13 episodes for this. Is that correct? Yeah.
I think so. I haven't actually checked the schedule, but yeah, I think it is.
In fact, you know what? Listen, this whole thing they were talking about doing 10 episodes. Let's just be brutally honest. Yeah, they only did it for Iron Fist. Let's not beat around the bush. They only did it for Iron Fist. But yeah, I still feel the same. I like I said, I enjoy watching the 13 episodes, but I feel that I start to zone out. Let's say because I'm one of those people that I can go without sleep for a good few days if I'm not careful. But what happens is that you sit down and you start to do other things. So I'm looking on my phone, or I'm looking at my tablet, or I'm on the chin-up bar, or doing push-ups or whatever. And so I ended up having conversations with people who would watch the show, and they were like, "Do you remember this bit?" And I was like, "No." And then I have a flashback, and it's 5 minutes missing from an episode. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's that time when I was doing a handstand." Oh shit. So yeah, so I'm definitely gonna try and limit myself. I think the last thing I watched, which funny enough was Iron Fist, I think I did maybe 2. I did in 2-3 episodes, bouts. So yeah, and I mean that I found it a lot easier, and I took a lot more in. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That makes sense. Well, as I said, listeners, Daredevil will be out with us at the time of recording. It should be out in a couple of hours. For those of you, I think the Australians have it already, I think, because obviously with the time difference and stuff, they get it straight away. So if you're listening to us down under, then yeah, make sure you let us know what you think of the show as well. But yeah, let's move on, because Richard mentioned Iron Fist, and recently we got some big news. In fact, it was just a couple of days ago that Marvel and Netflix have taken the decision to cancel Daredevil. Not Daredevil, Iron Fist. And I mean, this news has kind of, I guess, come as a surprise to nobody, really, because
I mean, what did you guys think of Iron Fist season 2 then?
Season 2, I mean, I thought was better than season 1.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when I looked at it, was that really saying much? I don't know, because I thought Iron Fist 1
a high
was
bar. Yeah.
a catastrophe. It really was a catastrophe. And I mean, well, I'll let Richard speak, because Iron Fist is actually a character that is very close to Richard's heart. So yeah, Richard could tell you kind of how he felt about Iron Fist. But Rich, kid, go.
You see how you keep on setting me up? Hey, every time I think I'm free, you keep on dragging me back in. Like we said, I mean, it was an improvement on a really, I mean, like you said, like, we're not going to beat around the bush, especially in hindsight as well. Like, it was a very, very big improvement on probably one of the worst TV shows I've ever watched. Like, and I mean, it's one of those things where season 1 was so bad that the only reason I watched it is because I kept on saying to myself, well, you know what, the martial arts is kind of shit, but maybe they're just saving the big baddest, you know, the baddest martial arts fight for the end of it, for the last episode. Because in my heart, my understanding of the genre of martial arts, that's how it is. I mean, let's, you know, once again, we're not gonna try and badmouth any type of particular genre or film, but the majority of martial arts that we watch, if it's an hour and a half of it is pure nonsense, and the last half hour is when we get to the nitty-gritty. Watch any Bruce Lee film; they are enjoyable, but you can't wait for Bruce Lee to get that top off and start doing a woo, like, you know. We can sit through nonsense to get to that. And so in where season 2 had basically, you know, made the big improvements, it's not something that was that hard compared to season 1. That's number one. And the way how season 1 was so bad, even though season 2 was an improvement, it seemed, the best way to put it is that it was too little, too late.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in my personal opinion. That's number one. And it's one of those things where like where I'm such an Iron Fist fan, one of the things that I did say when they announced when they were making these Netflix TV shows was they're going to have the hardest time with the character of Iron Fist, because there's mysticism related to the character. So there's magic, there's dragons, you know, there's different dimensions. Whereas, like, okay, Daredevil can deal with the hands, but in essence, you can kind of keep the hands as just straight up and down ninjas and not bring any form of magic into it. And you can get away with that. Luke Cage, he's a bulletproof man. You can believe that because in other parts of the Marvel universe, you know, there's gods with hammers and super soldiers. So everything can kind of be tied to the same, realism that we've already been exposed to.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, with Doctor Strange that was introduced, Iron Fist could still work, but you still need to take into account that it's a TV show. So you got to start thinking of things like budget. You got to start thinking of things like what type of storyline are you going to tell? And I just think they just missed the mark. And season 2, they did try and improve in it. They brought in like a new choreographer, Clayton Barber. But once again, like, I heard his name, I did my research, and I'm not trying to say that he's bad, but what I'd seen him do before, I wasn't super impressed with the martial arts that I was used to. So I'm not going to speak for anybody else. So he was Clayton Barber was a choreographer for Black Panther. And if you ever listen to our review, like, the martial arts in Black Panther was one of the weaker aspects of the film for me. The emotional content behind the fighting was good, but the actual choreography, I was not impressed at all. Like, I've seen better martial arts and in like on some of the best episodes of like Power Rangers. And I'm being serious. Like, you've got martial arts choreographers like Koichi Sakamoto, who did like the choreography for another one of our favorite martial arts films called Drive. So as much as people make fun of some of these shows, like, you can see the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that they put into it. And I never get that. I never got it from Iron Fist season 1, and I still didn't get it from Iron Fist season 2 in relation to Finn Jones.
Yeah.
And that's where it failed. Yeah. Finn Jones is the weakest link in season 2. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I thought they improved his character. Well, like as you said, it wasn't a high bar to set anyway. But I thought they did improve his character in season 2.
They improved it. I mean, in fact, I've actually spoken too much. So let's all just chime in, because like, I can listen. I could talk for days about this.
Yeah, I mean, we did do a review of Iron Fist season 2, and by the way, folks, we haven't forgotten about the other shows. It's just we haven't had time, but we will be getting on to Jessica Jones season 2 and Luke Cage season 2 soon as well. So watch his space. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like Iron Fist season 2, as Rich said, it was an improvement for sure. But he also hit the nail on the head in that Danny was kind of the weakest link in the show, really. Everybody else was kind of better than him. Not just from a martial arts point of view, but also just as a character. Really, it felt to me that the other characters were stronger, and their motivations made more sense to me than Danny's did. And one of the things we brought up in our review was that, and certainly from my perspective as somebody who read a lot of Heroes for Hire and Power Man and Iron Fist back in the day in the comic books. It felt to me like when he appeared on Luke Cage season 2 in his cameo, like that felt like the Iron Fist I'd been waiting for ages, from when they said they were making an Iron Fist TV show, because it just felt like the Luke Cage writers kind of got who he was and what his strengths are, and how well he kind of plays the slightly kind of hippie, laid back kind of zen, little bit of a jokester martial artist, which is what he is from the original comic books and things like that I read growing up. So to me, I always, when me and Rich saw that scene, we were kind of like, well, why can't they do that for Iron Fist, the show? Like, why do they keep changing his character in this show to make him so dour and over serious? And and that's not to say that you can't have those elements to his character. Of course, he should be 3-dimensional. So, he shouldn't just be walking around being a prankster the whole time. But there was no swagger to him. It was always just kind of like almost as if he was uncomfortable within himself, the character of Danny Rand and Finn Jones. It just seemed like there wasn't any comfort there. And I think that for me was what was the biggest kind of letdown, really. And as said, especially when I saw his cameo in Luke Cage season 2 and how well, the writers handled his character in the episode that he features in. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I mean, anyway, as said, they've decided they're obviously not going to produce any more individual seasons for Iron Fist, although the wording is quite tricky on the press release, because it makes it sound like they're just not doing it on Netflix anymore, which led to some speculation that he may appear on Disney streaming service, which is due to start next year, which is going to need additional content, obviously, and original content for it. So I guess my question to both of you would be, what would you prefer to see? Would you prefer to see an Iron Fist season 3 on Disney streaming app? Or would you prefer to see Iron Fist kept as a character that appears in, say, Luke Cage and maybe in some of the other shows, and maybe even a Heroes for Hire spin-off? How would you guys feel about that?
I mean,
sorry.
Go ahead, Dan. I mean, personally, like before it got cancelled, like, because I actually enjoyed season 2. Like, it sort of took Iron Fist up to like a level where I was like, I could actually see myself wanting to see season 3. Especially how it ended. I won't say how it ended, but I wanted to see like how they continued that story. But then when it got cancelled, I was like, okay. So they must be, I guess, gonna put him in a Luke Cage series and do like a Heroes for Hire. So I think that would probably be the more logical solution, to like put them two together. And I think for some people as well, Luke Cage is probably one of the weaker characters as well. So to maybe put the two of them together might help to like boost the ratings, I don't know.
Rich, how about you, man? I mean, where do you see the future for him, and would you prefer to see him in his own show again on, say, Disney's platform, or would you kind of keep him as a guest appearance for now?
See, I wouldn't mind. To be honest, I wouldn't mind if he just does a guest star or has his own show. But I think they would, and this isn't a personal thing, but I think they would need to recast Finn Jones.
Recast Iron Fist.
Yeah, recast Iron Fist. Yeah,
Okay.
they would need. Sorry, they need to recast Finn Jones, who plays Danny Rand Iron Fist. Sorry, listeners out there. And I just think, and it's not because I don't think he's a good actor or that I think he's a bad actor. He's clearly been in other things he's been decent or been good in, and he's on his CV right now. I'm sure it says that he's an actor, and he's getting steady work, so he's doing something right. But sometimes I think you just need to admit when somebody isn't built to play a character. I remember when they were filming, I think Paddington, the first one, and I think it was it Colin Firth that was meant to be the voice of Paddington?
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah, and they, I think they got like halfway through or quarter of a way through, and he decided to just pull out, and he was just like, yeah, I just don't think I'm doing a good enough job. I'm just not for this. And so like, and he just like said, okay, listen, like, can you just take me off? And that's how they got Ben Whishaw in, who plays Q from the new the most recent James Bond films with Daniel Craig. And I think and I remember reading it and going like, you know, good on you. Like sometimes, like, because I think being an actor, and when I say actor, I mean like whether you're male or female. I think being an actor like is very much about ego, but at the same time, you need to know whether you're able to do the job or not. Much like anything in life, I think. And when I was seeing Finn Jones and how, like I said, this is all based off of personal opinion. I follow Finn Jones on like, you know, social media, like Instagram and things like that. And I follow a lot of the cast from like the Netflix TV shows. And whenever it was coming up to their show's season to be released on Netflix, they would start posting like videos and pictures and, you know, like, and everything like that. And where Iron Fist is basically a martial arts based show, you had Jessica Henwick, you know, showing where she's practicing for stunts. You had the guy who plays Sasha, the guy who plays Davos, you know, doing the same thing, even down to Misty Knight. I don't remember seeing one video or one picture of Finn Jones training.
It's true.
He was just basically jet setting. Like I said, this is what I see. I'm not saying this is what he was doing. So Finn Jones, if you're listening, number one, welcome. Number two, this isn't a personal dig. But I just remember seeing him going around jet setting and playing like disco funky house records. And when I see that, and then I see the show, and I see how everybody has stepped up their game in relation to the martial arts and the acting, I then look at him and I'm like, you have stepped up your game, but you haven't approached it like how you should approach it. Like, you should be the most standout thing in this show, and you just seem to be taking it like, you know, taking it in a stride. So I think if no matter where I see Iron Fist, whether it's on Disney or whether it's like a team up, I think they need to recast the actual character. Like Finn Jones has had his chance. He's had his chance, what, 4 times, and 3 times we could say that he's actually done all right, and once he's just done like pretty shit. Come on, man. Let's just give it a rest now.
Well, Finn Jones, if you are listening, please don't set the lawyers on us, yeah? Because we ain't got the money to fight the case, man. We ain't. It's all good. Whatever you heard before, you misheard it. Don't worry. But yeah. I mean, I don't know what the future kind of should hold, really. I mean, I think I would like to see. Again, just because, you know, I'm a big fan of Luke Cage, I would like to see him appear there and do some Heroes for Hire stuff. But I also want, you know, and me and Richard talked about this a little while back, Dan, but, you know, I really want to see a Daughter of the Dragon show as well.
Yeah.
Because I love, you know, the way Misty Knight, played by Simone Missick, you know, I love the way that character is portrayed in these series, and I'm just in love with Jessica Henwick as well. I think she's amazing, and if you're listening, Jessica, call me. But, you know, I really do think they make a good partnership, and that was one of the high points for me of Iron Fist season 2 was the two of them and the way that they work together. And I think a show featuring them two could really work well. So yeah, that's something I would like to see. But as for Iron Fist, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll get another series on the Disney streaming channel when that eventually gets up and running. But yeah, who knows, man? who knows? As said, Rich might be right, and they might well just decide, you know what? Sorry, we gave you 2 goes and it didn't work. See you later.
Yeah.
And that's that. So, yeah, I guess we have to wait and see what the future holds on that one. But let's move on. We got a trailer recently as well for the Disney live action remake of the animated movie Aladdin, a much beloved animated movie. I mean, for me, I remember my little sister had 2 favorite movies, and they were Aladdin and Lion King, and she watched them 2 VHSs back to back. And obviously, me being the good big brother that I was, I sat through and watched them all with her. And I pretty much feel confident that I can quote like loads of stuff from both of those movies, from Aladdin and Lion King. And yeah, we finally got our first look at the Aladdin movie. What did you think of the trailer, Dan? Did you see it?
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. So it's a teaser trailer, isn't it? So it doesn't give away too much. But you know, from what they showed off, it looks all right. As I said, it didn't show too much, so I can't really give like a full opinion on it. But yeah, it looks all right from what I've seen. I think having Will Smith's voice as the genie will be a good thing, really. But yeah, no, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.
Yeah, I think Will Smith as the genie is very much going to be the deal breaker for people, really, because Robin Williams, performance is so loved. It's stepping into big shoes. So
exactly.
He's really, he's really going to have to pull out the big ones to win over, I think, the older audience. I think a newer audience and a new generation of kids are going to love it. But there'll definitely be some work to do on that part. But yeah, as you said, it's a teaser, so we couldn't really judge too much from it. But I did see quite a bit of griping online where people were complaining that there was yet another live action remake from Disney. And off the top of my head, I can only think that we've got like Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book that have come out recently. So they're the only kind of ones that I can think of now. But I know obviously we have Mary Poppins remake coming. We have Dumbo, The Lion King.
They had Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh just came out as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so we had Winnie the Pooh as well. There's a Mulan remake in production as we speak as well. And there were a few people kind of saying, Disney have run out of ideas and they're just kind of remaking stuff. So I guess, the question is, are they remaking too much stuff? Are they just kind of, are they kind of peddling on nostalgia a bit too much and not trying to generate new or original stories? Although I suppose, a lot of these animations are based on classic stories anyway. But, the feeling is that they're being a bit lazy and just going for the easy cash cows in some corners. So I just wanted to know how you guys feel about that. I mean, Rich, how do you feel? Do you feel Disney are pushing it a bit with all of these remakes that they've lined up?
I think they are. But it's one of those things like I'm one of those, I think, an anomaly where I don't love every single Disney movie. I don't. So it doesn't bother me because like the Jungle Book remake, the live action one, like I like the original, but it's not like, oh my god, Jungle Book's on, yay. I just watched it because I now have like a little son, so like I got him to watch the cartoon, then I got him to watch the live action version, and for me it was something that was more in the background. Aladdin and Lion King are like 2 of my favorites, so I will go and see those and just hope that the live action lives up to the animated. But in regards to just like churning out live action versions of animated movies that are already there, it does. I can see why people are saying it does feel like a bit of a cop out. Disney is known. I mean, Disney is like that the Steven Spielberg for like the animated world. In the West, like everybody, whether you're a man or child or woman, Disney films they touch us deep inside our soul, and so to have your favorite cartoon then made into a live action version and it comes out rubbish, because me personally I was impressed with the Jungle Book live action. that's gonna leave a bad taste in certain people's mouths. But that's what happens when you're a fanboy or a fangirl. You just gotta sometimes just let it go. But in regards to no, just let it go, man.
did you just deliberately put in a fucking Frozen line into this?
You know what? I didn't even notice that, man.
So you're out here punning and you don't even realize it.
I don't listen. I'm just that damn good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, is it a bit lazy? I suppose it is. But then in saying that, if they turned around today and said they're gonna do a live action version of The Incredibles, I'd be like, fuck yeah. Although that's Pixar, so yeah. I don't know. I would like to see some original stuff coming out from Disney right now. To be honest, as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Sorry,
No, I was gonna say, like, if you asked me that a few years ago, I would have said, yeah, why are they doing it? They're just doing it for the money. I don't want to see it. And then I watched The Jungle Book, and I know you just said you didn't like The Jungle Book, but when I saw The Jungle Book, I thought it was wicked. I thought, like, yeah, you know what, Disney, you do what you want to do. You do you. I'm gonna be there. If it's good, I'll watch it. If it ain't, then like Beauty and the Beast, I was never a big fan of the like original movie, and I watched the live action one. I thought it was alright. It's not really my thing, but I thought it was watchable.
Tell the truth. Was it too lovey-dovey for you? Well, I won't judge you.
I don't know. It might be. It might just be because it's that story. It's like it's not really one for me. Like it wasn't one of those movies that I watched when I was younger and thought, oh yeah, I really love this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like The Jungle Book, I remember watching that when it first came out, and then seeing the live action, I was thinking, are they going to actually like mess this up? And I thought they did a good job. So it kind of makes me feel like, all right, what are they going to do with The Lion King? What are they going to do with the Dumbo movie? All these other movies, Aladdin. I'm kind of excited to see what they can do with a live action version. And I suppose as well, like for the people that complain about it, there's a younger audience that's growing up now who haven't seen those movies back in the day. So they've got these movies to sort of be like, oh, who's Aladdin? Let me watch this movie. Oh, there's an animated version of it as well. Let me watch that. So I think it's kind of, yes, Disney are trying to make money, but at the same time, it's like they're sort of creating that new audience. They're bringing in that new audience and just sort of saying, look, these are the franchises that we got. Come on board and hope you enjoy it, sort of thing. So yeah, that's my take on the whole live action thing. Anyway.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is very smart strategy, as you said, from Disney's point of view, because, as said, they're on the one hand, they're, cashing in on people's nostalgia from those who will remember the original animated movies that came out, and whilst also reaching out to, a new younger audience that probably wouldn't necessarily sit down and watch, a 2D version of Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast, but may well be sucked in by a live action version. So, it makes sense. And I mean, if Beauty and the Beast box office numbers are anything to go by, then yeah, the audience is there because that film made a shit ton of money. So,
well, I remember when the teaser trailer came out, like people were going crazy.
Yeah,
it was just mad. It was like freaking, what's it called? Like 50 Shades of Grey, but for like kids.
You know what? I would love to see a 50 Shades of Grey fanfic version of Beauty and the Beast, man.
Hey, quick question: you guys were mentioning some of the the live actions that are coming, and obviously, like, I mean, if you could pick one thing out of all of these live actions that you're looking forward to seeing, what would it be? So, like, you mentioned like Will Smith being the genie, like big shoes to fill, but obviously Will Smith's a big guy, a big character. So just as an example, but who do you guys choose? Or what would you guys choose? So what would you choose?
For me, I mean, I would say Lion King, just because I have there's a special kind of emotional connection with the Lion King because it was, as said, one of the kind of first films that I really sat down and watched with my younger sister, and because I remember the both of us crying when Mufasa gets killed, even though I knew he got killed because I'd seen the Lion King in the cinema. But there's certain moments from that film and songs like Hakuna Matata and things like that I just want to. There's part of me that just really wants to see that, with big budget razzmatazz. Not to say that the original, animated movie didn't have that for the time. It certainly did. But, given what today's technology and what today's performers are capable of, it just seems fascinating to me. So, Lion King, I think for me is the one. How about you, Dan?
For me, it's probably, and I'm actually happy that they're making it, is Dumbo. It's one of those movies that I remember watching like over and over. There's movies you watched as a child that you just watched over and over and over again.
Yeah,
that was probably the one for me that I watched like loads of times. And I'm a big Tim Burton fan, so the fact that he's actually making this movie as well, it's kind of like, I want to see how he does it. Like, it's going to be sort of trippy, it's going to be dark, it's going to be, Dumbo for me is probably. I want to see how he sort of captures that animal movement and all that.
Well, one thing I was saying this to Richard when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. One thing we're definitely not going to see in that Dumbo remake is the crows.
Listen, we need to
that's going to be taken out.
Because them crows, boy, you're not going to see them in this version.
Listen. But that's the reason why I asked this question, because I want to see if they're going to do it. I can just imagine the crows with MAGA hats on. Like, look like that. With my Kanye, like,
when I put this hat on, I feel like Superman.
You feel me, Dumbo? I feel like I can fly, man.
Yeah, boy. So with that, we definitely won't see that. But yeah, I mean, they are all. That's the thing. As much as they are all remakes, they are all intriguing in their own way. There's something about each one. Like the Mulan version, I'm quite intrigued by as well. And as I said, there's something intriguing about each one of those things and how they're being used. Because isn't Donnie Yen in Mulan?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been cast in it, hasn't he? So yeah. I mean, like the legend Donnie Yen is going to be in that as well. So. There's a reason for each one of them to kind of have their own little bit of excitement about. I mean, even Mary Poppins. Like, I know people were like the diehards were cussing the trailer a bit, but I enjoyed the trailer. And Mary Poppins isn't necessarily my favorite Disney movie, but I watched the trailer and was like, okay, that looks pretty good. Like, it's Emily Blunt's not quite Julie Andrews, but who is Julie Andrews? She's a legend in her own right, and she's kind of doing her own thing with the character, and I kind of like what she's doing. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be good. And Lin-Manuel Miranda's in it as well, from Hamilton. So, yeah, it should be a good look, man. But yeah, let's start heading towards the end of this thing, so we're rapidly approaching the finishing line. So we're just going to cover two more talking topics, and we can keep this one brief because, to be honest, I just put it in because it made me a little bit sad. But I'm sure a few of you out there listening will know that I believe it was in the September. I think it was last month. PlayStation in Japan officially announced that they're closing their help center for the PlayStation 2. Now, I'm sure some of you listening are thinking, what, it was still open? And yeah, it was. So effectively what they've done is they've basically said, yeah, that's it for the PlayStation 2. No more support, nothing else. That console is effectively dead now. Dan, as a gamer and as somebody who I know loves games on different platforms, what's your best kind of PS2 memory? I mean, did you own a PS2?
So I didn't. So I owned a GameCube because I've always been a Nintendo guy up until recently, and I bought a PS4. But I was always a Nintendo guy. But I do remember my friends having a PS2, and I just remember like the buzz around Sony and the PlayStation, and like games like Metal Gear, GTA, and like the fighting games like Tekken, Soul Calibur, the Street Fighters. That was the console to have at the time for those types of experiences. And you'd always go around to your friend's house, or I'd always go around to my friend's house and grab a controller, and we'd be sitting there playing Tekken. They'd be teaching me how to like parry the attacks and all that, and it was just a good time. That was, I think that's what I remember the most about them. Those sort of days was just that sort of that buzz of playing together with your friends, and those fighting games and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, as you said, it was one of those consoles, wasn't it? I mean, I think for the time, it was the best-selling console in the world at the time, because they shifted like ridiculous numbers worldwide. I think it was like 4 million or something like that. So yeah, it was kind of crazy how popular the PS2 became, and how it became a cornerstone of some people's lives. I mean, for me, the memories are always, again, based around specific games, but would be when Rich got Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid 2, because Metal Gear Solid was on PS1, but Metal Gear Solid 2, I remember, because I used to always go around to Richard's house like after college and stuff like that. And when the PS2 came out, it was like, oh, holy shit, like we gotta get that. And I'm saying we, like I'm giving him money to put towards it to get it. I didn't. but we gotta get that. So when he got one, because he got one before me, I was like, holy shit, like, no, come on, get some games. He's like, what game are you getting? He's like, do you need to ask? I'm getting Metal Gear Solid 2. So he got the game and we played it, and it was, I remember the first time we put the game in, because for some reason we didn't know that Raiden was going to be like the main character in the game. And I remember I was pissed. I mean, Richard was cool with it, but I was like, no, like, fuck, where's Snake?
Where's Snake?
Where's Snake? Like, what kind of shit is this? Who's this guy? And why is he naked when you start the game? I don't understand. I was just not happy with that. But I think for me, the game that I love the most, because I still love it to this day, because it's now been transferred to next gen consoles, is Yakuza. I've spoken many times on Woollook Talks to the listeners. I know I've bored you constantly with talk of Yakuza, but I just love that game. That was where I first met Kazuma Kiryu, the lead character, and the way they were able to kind of realize modern Tokyo in that game and use the full power of that console's capabilities was, back then was just mind-blowing to me. Just absolutely mind-blowing. So that will always go down as kind of the thing I remember, about the PS2. That, and the fact that it was so lightweight as well, that you could just unplug it and then take it around to your friend's house and plug it in and play. That was really cool, man. Richie, how about you, man?
I was actually going to say Metal Gear Solid 2 as well, but for me it was Devil May Cry.
Oh
the Devil May Cry games, like because I would consider that the character of Dante as somewhat of a bit of one of the mascots for Capcom. And I like the fact that there was a continuing story for the character, and it was even like a prequel. I like that. Like I like that thing of like they invested in this character, and we're gonna continue telling a story, and each story got better. Like with the story they were telling, apart from Devil May Cry 2, but and with the graphics as well, and like the games, just every game seemed to up itself, compared to the last one, and I like that. There was Final Fantasy X, which was also an amazing game. It was the first Final Fantasy to have the cutscenes were like actually had voiceovers in it as well. It's literally one, I think is one of those machines that since like the PS3 has come out and Xbox has come out, people have forgotten how much of a leap the PS2 was, especially compared to some of the consoles that were out there or tried to come out. So I mean, you had like the GameCube, you had you had the Dreamcast, but the PS2 just managed to bang the nail on the head just perfectly. And let's not even not forget that it was a DVD machine as well. I didn't have a DVD machine. I had that, and I thought I was the best. I thought I was the guy. I was like, well, hold on. So you can come to my house. So like, them can come to my house and play PS2 games, and when they go, chick them can come to my house and watch DVDs. Like, so before Netflix and chill, it was DVD and chill. And so, you know, and like, so I'd probably say those two games are the ones that I really, really hold, you know, like really like hold it close to me, because it just made me feel like the machine itself seemed like a step up from the machines that had come up. And it felt more adult than a PS1, and the games that they were releasing felt more adult as well, and like the way how it was marketed, and then the inclusion of being able to play DVDs made me feel more like an adult as well, because it's like, well, I've got a DVD player, and at that point DVD players are costing like £400 in the store, and you know, you're getting, you know, a DVD player in a PS2 as well. So it was the first time I had like some form of like home entertainment system in my house. So just everything about it was just, well, it was just perfectly done. And then, like you said, there's a reason why it sold like 45,000 million billion units. It's because it was an amazing machine.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, RIP to the PS2. You gave us all many happy memories. Rest in peace, man. All right, we're going to wrap up, but before we go, it is Black History Month over here in the UK. So, you know, for those of you celebrating, big up yourself. And what we wanted to do, just to kind of celebrate that a little bit, is to tell you all some of our favorite Black heroes. And those were, you know, kind of people that we enjoyed as movie characters, TV characters, game characters, comic book characters, etc. And the things that I guess kind of inspired us to be the geeks that we are, really. So yeah, I mean, I don't know who wants to go first. Who's ready? But
Dan will go first.
You want me to go first?
Well, you are the guest. You are the guest. So the guest should go first. So go on, guest.
So yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't remember there being that many Black. There were. Like there obviously there were Black characters there, but I was never aware of them growing up. So like I used to read like X-Men comics and watch the cartoon, and obviously you had Bishop in that. So I tried to cling on to Bishop for like as long as I could, sort of thing. But I didn't really know much about the character. Like apart from when I'd see him here and there in an animated series, or if I picked up a comic that he was in. So I was more like just go with the flow, like take any sort of character that came along. And then it's only since recently that the MCU sort of brought in Black Panther. And I thought, all right, let me do some research on who this guy is. And then, you know what, it stopped me, and I was just like, you know what, this is the sort of character we need, like that I needed growing up. And like just knowing that he was this, not just a superhero, but like a king. He was like intelligent. It was like I would have liked to have known about characters like him when I was younger.
Yeah.
So like for me, that's like when they brought out the Black Panther trailer. I remember the first time I saw the trailer, and I was just like, it stopped me, and I was like, "Yo, this is dope. This is some next level shit right here. Like I need this. I need more of this, basically." So for me, like Black Panther is like up there as like my number one hero, like Black hero at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. Rich, want to go next?
I think I'm gonna have to agree with Dan. Like I said, I mean, I've always known about Black characters, and I've been collecting comic books for years. But it wasn't until, well, tell a lie, you know, like I mean, the Black Panther in the movie really hammered it home to me how much people, not just us as Black people, but like, you know, people need representation. But I'd probably have to say that Black Panther, I've been a fan of his a good few years before the film came out, and that was because the person who was writing him was just a massive fan of him, and I think it wasn't Bendis. It was Jonathan Hickman. He's a really, really big Black Panther fan. And for the first time when he started writing Black Panther as part of the New Avengers, he really just changed him from being that Black character in the background who's just a king to someone who had a voice. And there's one scene that I'll always remember that really hammers it home, and there's a bit where during the whole incursion that's going to happen in the Marvel universe, where the universes are basically clashing together, and they're going to say, "Listen, we're going to use the Infinity Gauntlet to try and destroy one world to save our world." And Steve Rogers is basically saying, "Well, I don't think that's a good thing because we're basically taking lives to save ours. That's selfish." And whereas like Steve Rogers and Black Panther are friends, they end up having this one-to-one conversation, like on their base, just by themselves. And Steve Rogers is basically saying like, like I view you as a friend. We've been through so much together, and I understand you as a man and as a king, that you'll understand where I'm coming from, and I hope you make the right decision. And then when it comes to the actual bit where they all need to make the votes as to whether they're going to destroy this other world to save ours, like Black Panther, he sides with everybody else that's part, who's part of the Illuminati. And Steve Rogers looks at him and says, like, T'Challa even knew. And T'Challa turns around and is like, I understand everything that you said to me. And as a man, I can't even disagree with you. But I am a king of a nation, of a country. You represent a people, but the people that I represent are my people. Yeah. So I need to make the right decision. And I just thought to myself, those few pages just as long as I've known Black Panther, those few pages where he had that little speech, I was like, fuck, this guy's a real person. And I just felt that link to him. And then obviously ever since then, I've paid a lot more attention to him, and I've tried to get everything that he's been in. And then you get the film, and then you realize, like you said, like, you know what, like we can be superheroes too.
Yeah.
And it just knocks it home. So I've always been fans of, like, at one point I was a fan of like Battlestar, or the Falcon. These are, black superheroes, but once again, they're kind of like sidekicks. And the Black Panther is the first time in a long time who is just his own man. So I'm gonna have to back up Dan and say, yeah, I definitely agree with you on on the way how Black Panthers like really made a difference for in black characters for me.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. For me, I mean, it's difficult because in a way I was always kind of made aware as a child the presence of black characters within, especially within like comic books. In the books that I kind of read, I didn't read many in the books that I read. But in comic books in particular, because my grandfather was a collector, he always was at pains to point characters out to me. So one of the books that I read early on in the days was Suicide Squad. And a prominent member of that was Bronze Tiger. And, he always used to go on about Bronze Tiger. And I was like, what's so good about Bronze Tiger, Granddad? And he was like, well, he's black, he don't take no shit, and he beats people up. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So, he kind of was a character that I in the early days, I kind of gravitated towards. And then when I started to get into Marvel stuff, as I mentioned before, Power Man and Iron Fist was a really big book that I read. And because of that, I went back and started reading the original Luke Cage. And that was a character that just resonated with me. And then kind of the different iterations of Luke Cage kind of showed me how flexible the character and adaptable the character was. Although there was a period, kind of sort of 90s where he became like a stereotype. And I really hated that, because it didn't feel like the Luke Cage that I was getting before. And then I think it was when he kind of fell into the hands of Brian Michael Bendis when he started his New Avengers run. And he included Luke as the leader of the team. That's when I kind of saw a different side to him. And also when he was writing the Alias series, which Jessica Jones, the Netflix TV show, is based on. When he appears in that, when he first appears, he's very guarded and defensive, and the relationship between him and Jessica is basically just a physical one and very kind of animalistic as well. And I was a bit it left a bit of a weird taste in my mouth, but I decided to persevere with the book because I really fell in love with the Jessica Jones character at that point. And then as the story went on, and Jessica kind of explains to Luke what happened to her with the Purple Man. and the way kind of Luke changes completely as a character. All of his kind of guards go down, and you begin to see the humanity behind him. That was when I was like damn, I actually love this character, man. I really like identify with him because he came across as I said, a very cold and distant character at certain points because he was protecting himself emotionally, because he is this big black man in this world which will view him a certain way. But when another character reached out to him and showed a side of herself that she hadn't shown to anybody in the Marvel universe at that point, he recognized that for what it is, and his instinct was to offer comfort and support to her, and that's where kind of their relationship develops, and then they get married and have the kid and so on and so forth. But for me, that was kind of the character that really showed to me that the black characters could be three-dimensional and can have complexities and could be strong and aggressive, but could also be deep and meaningful, and could also be caring and loving. And that's kind of the type of writing that I've always wanted for black heroes that I come across. So for me, I think that would be the one. But an honorable mention as well must go to Storm, because I just loved Storm, especially from Jim Lee's X-Men books. I love the way he wrote her, and especially from the animated show as well, because she was so ridiculously over dramatic in her language. It's like somebody on Twitter recently put together like a compilation video of all of her most over dramatic moments, and it's just gold. It's absolute gold. It's it's constant wind swipe them away over their feet, lightning will purge the skies, and it's just like it's hilarious, but I love it. So yeah, special mention to Storm as well, and to Spectrum as well. Spectrum was a character I kind of really got into. Spectrum, for those of you that don't know, at one point was a person to hold the Captain Marvel mantle, and she reappeared in the Ultimates comics. When did the Ultimates come out again, Rich? Was that like last year or the year before?
Yeah, it was last year.
Last year, right? Yeah. And that got cancelled, didn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately. I think, in fact, I think it was like, what were we, 2018 right now? So it's probably like 2016 into 2017. Yeah. They said that they ended up having 2 volumes, and I actually think at one point she might have even been like the leader of like the Ultimates, if I remember correctly.
So yeah, I mean that's a character that I really love as well. And we'll get to see her soon as well, listeners. The character will appear in Captain Marvel, the movie that's going to be coming out next year. We'll see her mother first, and I believe that we see her as a child in the Captain Marvel movie. But we'll get into all of that when it's time to talk Captain Marvel. But yeah, I think that will do it for us, man. We've been talking for a little while. And my throat feels just dry as hell, so I need to go get some water. But before we go, Dan, I must thank you once again for popping on the show with us, man. It's always great to have an extra person on here, and as said at the top of the show, big fans of what you do. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you.
Where can people find you at if they want to check out like the blog and stuff?
So I'm on YouTube. Dan's Distillery. There's also a blog, dansdistillery.blogspot.co.uk. I'm on Twitter as well, Twitter, Facebook, all the usual social media stuff, I guess you could say. But yeah, I'm usually more on Twitter and YouTube.
Wicked. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, listeners, what I'll do anyway is, as I usually do, is I'll put some links up in the show notes and stuff as well when we're done with this. So if you do want to find out more about Dan, you'll just be able to click on the links that will be in the show notes, and they'll take you directly to his YouTube page and to his Twitter as well. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Apart from, yes, I must, of course, say our usual thank yous as well. Firstly, to Rob from Emotionally 14. Our podcast is Emotionally 14 endorsed now. What does that mean? Well, click on the links in the show notes and you'll be able to find out. And a big thank you as well to all the crew from the Britpod scene. I was able to host an episode of their show recently, and that was a lot of fun. So go and check them out as well. You'll find them at www.britpodscene.com. And yes, of course, before we go as well, I must mention that we are still continuing the Bebop Rewatch podcast. That is our Cowboy Bebop featured show. Dan, you a fan of Cowboy Bebop?
I've never seen it.
You're slipping. You're slipping.
Listen, put Spider-Man down, not because I'm jealous.
I'm gonna check it out.
Man. Cowboy Bebop, as far as we're concerned, is the greatest anime show ever made.
Okay.
And we've been doing a podcast where we've been rewatching it episode by episode. We recently released session 6. Called Sympathy for the Devil, which was just crazy and a bit of a head fuck. But we've got another session coming up for you guys soon as well, so look out for that. That will be up on the podcast channels very soon. Okay, that's it for me. I'm going to say goodnight. Rich, say goodnight.
Good night.
And Dan, say goodnight.
Good night.
And we're out here, people. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Peace. Thanks for listening to us. If you're down with Wulong Talks, show some love by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Wulong Talks. You can also find us online at www.wulongtalks.com or drop us an email at wulongtalkspodcast@gmail.com. We can also be found as part of the Britpod Scene Collective, and we're also officially E14 endorsed. Search for those hashtags to enjoy more content from us and from other great British podcasters.